how long did it take you to create your own personal pitch for your brand? Like, you've clearly refined it. You've put a lot of thought and effort into it. What was the process that you went through? And I'm thinking specifically about your media kit and your website and that whole thing, but also you're very consistent in your verbal delivery as well. So like, what was the process that you went through?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you mentioned specifics there because, you know, initially when I'm thinking pitch, like I'm thinking elevator speech, right? I'm thinking my little 30-second, who am I? What do I do? How do I benefit my audience? Who is my audience? And what makes me different, you know, from my competitors? So, you know, that pretty much came to me fairly quickly. You start with your attention grabbing hook. You share all of that, especially your USP, your unique selling point or proposition, and then close with some sort of call to action. I think that is really what's at the bottom of everything. That's like the baseline for everything between my website, my media kit, my brochure, like anything that I've got out there that promotes me. You know, it all comes back to your brand. It comes back to your why. What is it that gets you up in the morning? What lights a fire underneath you? What motivates you? You know, bring out that emotion. And then also really to remember who you're talking to. Who is your audience? Like for me, you know, I have a variety of audiences, quite honestly, because I do a lot of different things, right? I write, I coach, I teach, I speak, you know, et cetera. And so depending on whom I'm talking to, I have to remember, again, what's their emotional pain points? How can I relate to them? How can I say, I've been in your shoes and I can help you solve these problems? You know, so the elevator pitch came to me fairly quickly. The website, quite honestly, it's been a work in progress over the last 2 years. You just have to start somewhere and then gradually build upon it. I think if I had waited until I felt it was absolutely perfect, it would have never gone live, right? So I started with one page and then I built out, you know, my main pages, and then I started adding sub pages, sub navigation pages. And it's a constant, it's in a constant state of revision, which I'm totally okay with. You know, just continually upgrading things, updating things, and go from there. Now with the media kit, I actually worked with a speaker coach who helped me with that. You know, again, we sat down with the who, what, where, why kind of thing, added in your basics, right? Your contact information, your followers on social media, and who you are and what you do. Then you move on to your expertise and the topics that you are comfortable speaking about. Add in some social proof like testimonials, your media appearances, awards that you have won, and then really, you know, give them what they're seeking. Are they looking to download headshots? Are they looking for your bio in certain formats? Is it 100 words, 150 words, what have you? You know, give that all to them. But that media kit probably came together. It was a collaborative effort, right? And it probably came together over a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. Was the process on that, but it was a lot of back and forth and, hey, can you fix this and change that, and let's reword this, you know, kind of thing. So definitely, you know, allow for some time in that, because it's something that's very important, that's going to sell you and sell your brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. And depending on how important the opportunity is, or how significant the presentation is or the speech, you're probably, you know, you may have to spend more time or less time. And also depending on how fully fleshed out or how fully developed your message is. Like if you have data and information, that's one thing. But in terms of the rhetoric or in terms of how you're wording or phrasing certain things, maybe you don't have a lot of good phrasing that has been developed just yet. So that might take some time to build that out.
Sure.
That would require more time commitment. So last question. How should someone decide what to include and what not to include? Like what to delete in the final message? Is it just a question of brute force going through it, speaking it out loud, editing, refining, trying it again, rinse and repeat? Or are there certain concepts that should be prioritized versus others?
Sure. Yes and yes. You know, you want to keep it super short. You want to keep it super simple as much as possible. As you're closing out the presentation, I think it's important to summarize what you've just been over, you know, in case somebody had like zoned out in the middle of your presentation, at least they can catch it again at the end. So just do that real briefly. Consider making it inspirational or motivational. Again, hit that emotional touch point as much as possible. And then my personal favorite is to always include some sort of call to action. You know, what does that look like? Is that something for them to go off and do? Is that something for them to follow up with you on? Whatever the case may be, but that probably comes from me being in the ad world, you know, in the marketing world, you know, get them to do something. So for me, it's, you know, I close out, I've got a slide, it says, thank you, but it's also got my contact information, you know, hey, you have any questions, you want to follow up, here's how you can reach me. Or maybe if you're giving a presentation, you might offer some sort of freebie, right? Hey, go to my website and you can get this free download. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, give them some sort of call to action, give them something to do, give them some sort of action steps. And it may even be something as easy as, hey, remember what we talked about? Now go do that. You know, something inspirational and motivational, but yeah, otherwise I'd say just keep it simple.
And conceptually, in terms of what to include, what not to, you know, what should audiences hear versus what they should not? Like I'm imagining somebody that has, you know, a lot of data and evidence and a lot of information that they could share about a project. It's a 6-month project that they've been working on. Now they have to present the final results to the board or to the management team, let's say. How do they make the decision on what to include out of those 6 months and what not to include? Or maybe like, what would be your approach?
Yeah, how do you figure that out? Go with the highlights, you know, go with the things that are gonna make people stand up and notice. You know, the biggest things that are gonna make a difference. You could even do some sort of, you know, think about storytelling, you know, where there's, you build up to some sort of climax and then you bring it down. You could totally do the same thing in your presentation. And then, you know, again, summarize everything at the end. But I would just pick out the biggest things that are going to have the biggest impact, because you can't get everything in there. So you find the most important things. You know, I'll put together an outline when I'm writing my presentations. And there's always room for reorganization, right? So I try and get everything out at first. So in this case, you know, you would put all of the important details and then you would go back and you'd revise your outline before you write your presentation, right? So you're editing again, or even before you write the presentation, but edit. You know, I think it's super important to remember how long your presentation is supposed to be, because I think that's going to be a huge guide for how much information you can include in here. Is it 30 minutes? Is it 60 minutes? What have you? And then decide how much time will you spend on each slide, right? So I think that's going to be a huge contributing factor here. But even then, you could put your biggest points on your slide. You could really dive into it, and you could even have maybe some disclaimer on your slide. You don't even have to talk about it, or maybe you talk about it and you don't even have it on your slide. You know, you could go one way or the other. But I think there are ways to work around it to get everything in there. Or you could say, hey, for more information on this, go see my website.
Right. And if you've created enough desire and anticipation, then they will certainly want to do that, or go to the tangible report or the PDF document that you sent in advance, et cetera. I'd like to tell people a lot, you know, if you can kind of get a sense of how fast you speak, words per minute, average person might speak, let's say 150 or 160 words per minute. Mm-hmm. And, and you might be 170 or even 200 words per minute, whatever your personal number is. But roughly you can then estimate, okay, I have a 10-minute presentation. I speak 150 words per minute. That means I have 1,500 words roughly that I can express my entire presentation from start to finish. Now, 1,500 words, it's like, in 1,500 words, what can I say about this topic? 1,500 words is the length of a long news article, basically. Mm-hmm. And you can just kind of break it down from there. All right, cool. So this is definitely interesting info. So Julie Cortez, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.